Hi, this is Pat McDonald, your host for Vote for Vermont, where our tagline is Listening Beyond the Soundbites. Tonight we have a very different show for you. It's actually going to be videotaped in 3 segments, one for each party in the House of Representatives. I have Brian Savage, who's the House Minority Whip for the Republicans. I think he goes by the title of Assistant Minority Leader. Jill Krowinski, who's the House Majority Leader for the Democrats, and Robin Chestnut-Tangerman, who's the House Majority Leader for the Progressives. We have invited these legislators here to talk about their priorities for 2017 and a little about their party platform. A platform, I don't know if many of you know this, but it entails a great deal of work. Every line is thought about, every priority, every goal that the party wants to achieve. And then the platform is voted on by all of the members of the party at their annual meeting. The House of Representatives consists of 150 legislators, each one represents 4,100 Vermonters each. There are 83 Democrats, 7 Progressives, and 53 Republicans, and 7 independents. The Democrats are the majority party, obviously, and each party holds what they call a caucus, where all the members get together to talk about what their priorities are. There's a set meeting every week at a certain time, but then caucuses are called for emergencies, to discuss a bill that's on the House floor, how they want to handle it, and they also vote on elected officials, who's going to be their leaders, assistant leaders, pretty much anything that the caucus wants to talk about. The leader title is obviously, the whip title is interesting. Wikipedia says it's the party's enforcer, but here in Vermont it's traditionally looked on as an assistant to the leader. As long as the whip really knows how everybody is going to vote on a bill, that's the primary job of the whip, so that when a bill comes to the floor there are no surprises. So our last guest for this evening is Robin Chestnut-Tangerman. Did it? Thank you.
Got it.
House Leader of the Progressive Party. Robin, welcome. And
Thank
this
you,
is
Thank you
Ben
for being
Kinsley.
here. Thank you, Ben,
who's
for the
joining us to
opportunity.
ask some questions. We're very excited. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself, how long you've been in the legislature, and is there something you do when you leave the State House?
This is the start of my second term in the legislature. So my first term was 2014. Being a Vermonter, there are several things that I do outside the legislature.
Yes.
We all wear many hats.
Yes, we do.
I've been a self-employed builder for about 25 years,
Cool.
with a focus on energy efficiency.
Oh, excellent.
And I'm also a licensed high school social studies teacher. And I work with,
That's a little bit of a...
with at-risk teens in alternative
Oh.
education programs.
Excellent.
Very cool.
I've also done a little bit of adjunct teaching at Green Mountain College in sustainable design and energy efficiency.
What a
fields.
great background to bring to the legislature to keep their focus on energy and all that, and education.
It's both applicable and, it's a very solid grounding as a working tradesman in the state.
Yep.
A real understanding of the
I have
issues.
to have you back. I want to do a show
face
on
many
tech
of
ed
us.
so bad because I am passionate about technical education, and we could do it much better in this
We
state.
could do it better.
Yes, we
Absolutely.
could. So,
Yeah, so one of the big questions that we've asked all of our guests so far today, it was what prompted you to become a leader in your party? And obviously there's a lot of more responsibility and a larger time commitment that comes along with that.
There is, and it's actually not something that I looked for, but the other members of the caucus asked if I would step up, and I was willing to do so. Felt we've had wonderful leadership from Chris Pearson over the last couple of bienniums.
Now over in the Senate, and I've seen him several times over the last couple of weeks because we've been working on the ethics issues over there.
Yeah.
So
Chris.
Chris, big shoes to fill.
Yeah.
But I felt like I could grow into it and was willing to take on the role.
Good for you. That's great. So you've got your caucus, and you said there's 7 progressives?
There are 7 in the House,
Right.
and there are 2 in the Senate.
Okay. Do you ever jointly meet with them and work out priorities and stuff?
Usually schedules don't permit
Oh,
that.
okay.
Our House caucus meets when unfortunately the senators usually can't make it. But we're trying to find a time when we can all meet in the Lieutenant Governor's office.
Oh, that's a good idea.
And have a monthly or bi-weekly coffee hour.
So you all
where we
have
can
probably established some priorities for this year, because it's going to be a very interesting year with the change in Washington and all the changes of people in the legislature. All people in new positions.
big turnover,
Yeah.
not just in the leadership, but in the general composition of the House.
Right.
But establishing priorities, they're really not new priorities. You know, the needs are still there.
Yeah,
The
that's
same
true.
needs that we've had all along. The needs for a livable wage, for accessible health care, accessible and affordable,
Right.
for affordable child care. You know, I think what the Progressive Party really does is focus on human rights and people's ability to live a quality of life in an affordable way that gives them the dignity of work, the joy of raising a family or career fulfillment. And those goals continue year after year, and our means of achieving them may change a little bit with changing administrations.
I have to say,
goals are the
when I
same.
first moved to Vermont, my daughter when she was young, was in daycare, and they had a subsidy program, which otherwise I wouldn't have been able to send her when I was first starting out work. And I was surprised about how costly daycare is in this state. It really is.
It's a real
lot
challenge.
of money, and if you have 2 or 3 kids,
Forget it. Yeah.
well, your salary's going for the daycare.
2 kids in daycare can be more than a
absolutely.
low-income salary.
Yeah, right,
It's just-
absolutely.
It's not
Yeah,
doable,
it's
not sustainable.
we were just talking with Jill Krawinski about how it can be such an impediment, not just for kids or families who want to have children, but also, for example, there was an op-ed from a woman in Barrie recently, right, where she was receiving a child care subsidy and was in a position where she was offered a promotion, and that promotion would have put her over the threshold to receive the child care subsidy and would have actually set her back. And it's an impossible situation to be put in.
And that happens not just with child care, but
Right.
with
a number
all
of things.
kinds
Oh,
of anything
absolutely.
that has
That
a
cliff-
subsidy.
Yeah.
It's a really difficult balance.
Yep. I think the cliff issue is going to come back up again this year, which I think is a very important topic to have, because people need to start out and keep moving up and feeling good about themselves and their career. And if you have to turn down a promotion, that's not very helpful.
And it's in healthcare.
Yep.
It's in
Yep.
income sensitivity on property taxes.
Yep.
Right.
They're scattered all the way throughout.
It's everywhere.
Absolutely.
Good job.
So are there any bills that we should watch out for that will be reflecting some of the priorities you have or that you've mentioned already?
There will be a number of bills with, introduced by progressive members or progressive priorities. One will be a look at universal primary care, again, as a means of making
Could you explain that
healthcare
a little bit?
affordable.
I've actually never heard that phrase. What does that mean, universal?
So, universal is single payer.
Oh, single.
essentially.
Oh, of course, we've been with health.
And so this would be focused on primary care as
okay,
opposed
all
to
right.
the
Right.
whole spectrum
Right, of course.
Yeah,
Right,
healthcare.
right.
Keep it more narrowly focused and try to focus on prevention as opposed to...
Exactly,
Oh, okay,
because
right, yes,
as
right.
as prevention, it's a cost saver.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
You're right.
on a system scale, yeah.
Right. And
Excellent.
Oddly enough, the single payer system that we do have of Medicare is focusing on the most cost intensive part of our population.
Right.
So it'd be nice if we could extend that to a real cost-saving area.
Exactly.
With
Yeah.
prevention.
So universal.
Potentially some leveraging in there because of the global commitment waiver to maybe refocus some of those dollars on the prevention end of it as opposed to
Right.
treating the chronic type of...
And that can work hand in glove with the all-payer system.
Right.
They're not.
Yeah, I
mutually
think that's what I've heard
exclusive,
most
so.
about is the all-payer
Yeah.
system, but
Yeah.
it's pretty much the same.
No, it's not the same, but the all-payer is the mechanism of billing.
Or how
and,
you bill it.
Yeah, all
Yeah.
payer
Through
is
an
essentially a
administrative-
framework is essentially what
Yeah.
it is, yeah.
and that can work within the universal.
Well, we don't know
primary
what's
care.
happening nationally either, do we? So that's
Exactly.
a big hurry up and wait.
That's actually the 800-pound gorilla
Yes,
in the room
exactly,
is
exactly.
what's going to happen in Washington. I mean, as you know, healthcare, a huge portion of it about 1.3 million
Right.
billion. Sorry,
Billion, yeah.
billion is federal money. Most of that's Medicare, but
Right.
not all.
Yeah.
But other chunks like transportation and education also rely on federal money.
Right.
And so we're waiting to see
Yeah.
Right.
what
Kind of in a
happens.
holding pattern
Right.
until.
What do you
yeah.
think about human services and funding of human services? I just something you mentioned, I thought, oh, there's so much federal dollars in the human services area as well, and that's a huge
Yeah.
percentage of our overall budget.
Yes, it is.
And I think every
big portion.
nonprofit that I've talked to, all looking for increase in funding because, their needs
It's-
have gone up and their costs are going up.
And even if needs don't go up, costs go up
Yeah,
because
right.
everything goes up.
Yep.
Right.
And so it's going to be really challenging
Yeah.
to prioritize, to find the money.
Right.
Even programs that make a lot of sense financially, like low-income weatherization.
Right.
Because it's not only is it a cost saver in terms of fuel, but there are all sorts of studies proving that the more efficient a home is, or if it's weatherized, the people in it are healthier. So there's fewer sick days, fewer medical needs.
Right.
Kids do better in school. A whole raft of things reflected in that weatherization.
Yeah,
But
that's
it's hard to
arguably
find the money for it.
right. Then that's arguably one of the best places you can invest money in from an energy standpoint.
Right. But it's by no means a sure thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So, talking a little bit about your party platform, clearly a lot of effort went into developing it. We took a significant amount of time over the last week to dig into all the parties' platforms, and there's clearly a process that they all follow in developing these.
A long and occasionally grueling.
And occasionally grueling, clearly. Yeah.
Every word counts.
Yes.
So, and unfortunately, I think a lot of people don't realize that these platforms exist or that they're updated on a fairly regular basis every biennium or every year in some cases. So how do you promote the party platform that you have in place, make people aware of it, and so forth?
As a legislator, the party platform is really I would say a touchstone, because we have a lot of priorities, a lot of constituents. My number one commitment is to the constituents that voted for me, to my district. And my district is by no means a progressive district. It's a pretty evenly split between those who would lean a little conservative, those who would lean a little liberal. And that my commitment is to serving my district fairly. And then, hot on the heels of that is every legislator has to deal with their conscience. What can you support ethically, morally? What can you stand by?
Right.
Because if you can't stand by your vote, then you shouldn't be in government.
I love that answer.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Actually, I'm really glad to hear you
That's
say
great.
both of those things. I think a lot of times, people get so caught up in party politics and thinking about, what does my party think about this issue? And I'm glad to hear you say that your number one priority is your
The voters,
constituents,
right.
because that's where, as a legislator and an elected official, I do believe that's where your first priority lies, is with the constituents back home.
And then can you go to sleep at night?
And then-
I've always found if
Yeah.
I voted perhaps against, not as my constituents might like, but if I can explain it to them and stand by my vote, as you said, which I think is so important, this is why I voted this way, they're like, oh, okay.
And people
thank
will
you for
respect that,
Yeah,
even if
I
they
agree with
disagree.
you.
Yeah,
That's good.
absolutely.
And then the third constituency is the caucus or the party.
Right,
And that's where you tie in to the platform.
yeah.
And you really use it as a touchstone because, the platform may call for something specific like a $15 minimum wage in the next year.
Right,
That's not a political reality.
right.
So stick with the idea of the broader idea that someone working 40 hours a week should not live in poverty. And then how do you accomplish that?
Good
Right.
approach.
Yeah, that's an excellent way to approach
That's
it.
great. And I just we've said this before, all our guests, you really should check out the platform for each of the parties because a lot of time and effort goes into it. There's a vote. at the state meeting, so all of the progressives have voted on this, and then it's taken to heart by the caucus members, and it's a great read. And as we were talking before we started filming, they're all pretty similar, at least in the topics. It's how you deal with it may be different, but hopefully there's some room for working together.
I think that they're probably the biggest difference in them is what is the role of government in accomplishing that goal? Is it some parties favor a more free market approach?
Right.
Others see a role for an activist government in either directly providing services or creating the landscape through regulation to make it happen. So I think that we do share a lot of goals.
Yeah. We all love our state.
Exactly.
And its people.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I'm just wondering, because obviously our lieutenant governor is a progressive.
Yes.
And I know when I was in the legislature and Phil Scott was the lieutenant, we relied on him a lot for guidance, and I'm assuming you will find a little bit extra strength as a smaller party to have the lieutenant governor in the same party. I think that's a real help.
It gives us a lot of increased visibility.
Yeah, good for you.
And I think another thing that helps with is historically the Progressive Party has been somewhat Chittenden County focused. And I actually am really pleased to be caucus leader and not from Chittenden County, from a rural district.
Right, yeah.
That's right.
Agriculture is
That's a
probably
great
the primary
point. That's
driver.
right. It's all about Chittenden.
And that's where Lieutenant Governor Zuckerman comes in, who's also a farmer.
Right.
And he and I can work together to highlight farm issues as a progressive issue.
Yeah, he's the first active farmer, I think, that's been lieutenant governor, and it's been quite a while.
It is. I heard the number of years once, but I don't know.
I think it's something on the order of 60 years or something like that. Yeah. And this has been quite the year for progressives, particularly in Vermont, I think. You have Bernie Sanders, who made a huge splash nationally. David Zuckerman, who had a very strong primary campaign in the Democratic Party.
The carrots he handed out.
That's right.
we
did that at the Rutland Parade. David and I marched together.
Oh my God! Everybody loved
carrots.
it in Barrie. They were like, "What is this?"
Well, and then you also got another senator, and so I think seems like to have been a very good year for Vermont progressives.
And I'm glad that you mentioned Bernie, because obviously, although he's never been a member of the Progressive Party, he's the godfather.
Yeah,
certainly an inspirational figure.
Exactly.
Yes.
And there's never been, in my experience, a character like him on the national stage in terms of consistency, integrity, carrying a message that reaches across parties.
Right.
Yeah.
And
that's
I think
something to say. Bernie has never changed. He's been consistent since the day I met him, which was many, many years ago. He's been very consistent. Like him or not like him, but he's never wavered. Never wavered.
Or minced words.
No, that's true.
And so I think that Bernie appeals to a lot of people who don't know they're progressives.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's good.
So the real test for what issue a party cares about is oftentimes where the investment, or where they'd like to see investments in the state budget. Are there any areas, should funding become available, that the Progressive Caucus would like to see invested in the state budget?
We would always like to see increased access to health care, to child care, and so money, of course, is usually an issue there.
Right, of course.
And we could use all the money that's available in those areas. But there are a lot of other areas in terms of tax equity. Vermont is one of the few states that taxes Social Security income. I would love to see, we collect about $29 million a year in Social Security taxes.
Right.
If we had suddenly wound up with $29 million surplus, that's one area I would like to see it applied, as no longer taxing.
People may not be leaving in the droves they're leaving in these days. We might stay.
And it'll go right back into the Vermont economy.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, that's one of our biggest demographic issues that we're facing is there is a large group of workers that are going to hit that retirement age in the next 10 to 15 years. And if you look at workforce trends, keeping them here is going to be critical to the future success of our economy and our Vermont society.
as well as attracting new workers.
As well as attracting new ones to replace them, yes.
All of our friends that have left the state, they've gone to other states that don't tax Social Security. That's one of the things they look for. It's ridiculous that they're all leaving and this is their home.
Well, that's true for retirees,
yeah.
That tax burden. But I think that there's actually a missing piece of the narrative about youth leaving, the 24 to 35-year-olds.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they've always gone.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they do.
Thank you for that. I've always saying that.
And then they come back.
Yeah, right.
And if you look at where they go, yes, it's hard to make a living here in Vermont, but those kids go to Brooklyn,
right.
San Francisco, Seattle, Boston. It's not cheap there,
right?
Yeah.
But they come back when they want to raise their family. I've always thought we should look to the kids who are here now who picked Vermont to go to college at UV and entice them to stay here. They're
right.
here for a reason, but we never really reach out to them. That's our youth, they're here in college. Anyway,
absolutely.
We have to go, Ron, thank you so much. I hope you come back.
Well, I would like to very much. Thank you,
I'd love to pursue some
Thank
of those
you.
conversations. Thank you very much. Pleasure having you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I want to thank all of my guests for appearing on the show. I want to especially thank Ben Kinsley, who's here from Campaign for Vermont. As you know, I have partnered with Campaign for Vermont to do these shows, and which will give us a great deal of visibility throughout Vermont. So we're very pleased to be working with Ben. I would encourage each of you to check out your party's platform and the other two parties as well. I guarantee you that you'll find them very interesting. I also encourage you to attend any caucus meeting. As I've mentioned before, the House is the People's House. You can go there anytime you want, listen to debates on the floor, attend committee meetings and House caucus meetings. I'm sure they'd love to hear from you. Have lunch in the cafeteria. Get to meet your legislators at lunch. And so that was it. I hope you enjoyed the show, give you a little insight as to what our political parties are up to this year. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next week. And in the meantime, keep listening beyond the sound bites.